everybody. Welcome to Cosi Talks. It is 30 days live for Limb Loss Awareness Month, and today is day 20. And I have some extra special guests, and today's going to be a little bit longer than those 2-minute lives I've been doing all month. So with me today, I have Joe Pleban. He's up top. Say hi, Joe.
How's it going, guys?
Back, Dr. Dumanian from TMR Nerve. So guys, we've got a really special show planned for you tonight. We're going to wait for a few of you to pop on board, and then we're going to get started. For those of you watching the replay, you know the rules. I'd like to know who's watching the replay. And if you have any questions, go ahead and put it into the comment section. I will be looking back to see who watched the replay and pick up those questions as well. So we've got someone who's called Aloha Shopping. I really like that name, saying, hey, Joe. Joe, can you see the comment on the right side?
Aloha Shopping.
Aloha. There we go. We got Tammy on board. We got Chuck. Chuck, I am sending your book out tomorrow. We've got Sandra from Gainesville, Florida. She's a Gator, I'm assuming. We got Michelle. There's my other physical therapist. Post happy hour. Water in my cup. Well, you should have brought your happy hour with you, Michelle. We've got Tom McIntyre on board. There's my Canadian right there. All right, guys. We've got a lot of people. Hey, it's Pastor David. It's a party. All right. So guys, we have an extra special story tonight. I should probably start by introducing, for those of you who are joining me for the first time, welcome. My name is Cosi. I'm a physical therapist, amputee specialist here in beautiful Tampa, Florida. We're having the best weather of our lives right now. And tonight is a sponsored show by TMR Nerve. We're going to talk a little bit about that with my special guest, I was pointing the wrong direction, Dr. Dumanian and Joe Pleban. So guys, a couple of months ago, we brought on the show Dr. Dumanian to talk about targeted muscle re-innervation, right? If you didn't get a chance to watch that show, it's up on my YouTube channel and it's also up on my Facebook channel. So we're going to give you a brief overview, okay? But before we get started, we're going to go ahead and just jump in and do our very first giveaway. We have a lot of people on board tonight. Hey, Patricia, nice for you to join us. We've got Bonnie on board with her coffee. All right, guys. Stephen from Jacksonville in the house. Hey, how you doing, Stephen? Okay, so guys, listen up for our first giveaway. Our first giveaway, okay, TMRnerve.com, and we're going to post that link in the comments section. And you need to sign up for their blog, okay? Guys, I really love signing up for blogs. It's really hard for me as a mom of 4 and running a clinic to actually get any meaningful reading done. So when I have a company that's already just putting that right in front of me and telling me what I need to read, it's really nice and convenient, okay? So guys, sign up for this blog. We're going to keep this contest open through Friday, okay? And on Friday, we are going to award somebody a Cosi Talks Strong Body annual subscription. That's an access to 150 videos that I designed for above the knee and below the knee amputees. So if you guys want a chance to win one of those annual subscriptions, go sign up now to the TMRnerve.com. Thank you for putting that link up, TMR Nerve, and go ahead and sign up for their blog. Yes? Okay. So Dr. Dumanian, you're too quiet. We got to get you talking just a little bit more. Why don't you introduce yourself once again to our audience?
Well, I'm Greg Dumanian. I'm from Chicago at Northwestern. I'm the chief of plastic surgery. And I had the privilege of working with Joe many years ago. So TMR is a relatively new surgery procedure for amputee pain and phantoms. And it's gotten a lot of interest around the country and around the world. And Cosi and people like Joe are the best ambassadors for this sort of thing.
Absolutely. And guys, thank you so much for your comments. When I was posting the announcement for tonight's show, so many of you shared your stories about how you've had TMR done and you had wonderful success with it, or that you were just happy to have somewhere you could go for more information. So like I said, guys, I am pushing this website because there's a lot of wonderful information. Probably my favorite part of TMR Nerve website is that they have a physician directory. And to me, that's gold. By state, they have listed all the surgeons like Dr. Dumanian who have been trained in this procedure. So
wait. Trained in the procedure, invented the procedure.
Pioneered the procedure. Pioneered. Ooh, I'm in it now. Pioneered the procedure. Pioneered the procedure.
But the people on the website, though, are trained. We had courses at Northwestern. So surgeons would come in, watch a live surgery, hear a lecture, and then do sham surgery on cadavers. So it was a big deal, sponsored by your government in mind, the U.S. Department of Defense. So the DOD did a really good thing.
Good old DOD. Thanks to the good DOD. We've got Bob Pleban. Do you know him, Joe? Does he sound familiar to you?
Yeah, just a little bit.
There
Hi,
we
Dad.
go. Hey, Harsh. You gotta say, hey, Dad, hey, Mom. My parents still don't know how to get onto the show, so, we're going to get them there one day. All right, guys, so let's just do a brief overview of targeted muscle reinnervation. So originally, this procedure was created for upper extremity amputees. And basically, it was meant to take the nerves that were left over, rewire them, and plug them into the pectoralis major muscle, so that the patient could then go on and use a myoelectric prosthesis. And the myoelectric prosthesis is basically the mind control that you hear people talking about sometimes. And Dr. Dumanian, you all found an interesting side effect with this procedure in terms of how it helped with pain.
Total pain and phantoms. We did not expect it. In fact, everyone was hesitant to try this operation because they thought it would create pain and phantoms. But if you give the nerve somewhere to go and something to do, a purposeful nerve, a nerve with a target, is a happy nerve.
There we go. And you guys, that's Dr. Dumanian's coin phrase. I like to use idle hands make devil's work. So if we give the nerve something to do, right, and let it do its job, it won't cause trouble elsewhere. So as it trickles down into the lower extremity amputee, this is becoming now a procedure to be used, and hopefully a standard protocol sometime soon in the near future, for treating neuromas. Okay, so guys, just a quick reminder on a neuroma. In a traditional amputation, or the way amputations have been done for the past, 5 centuries, the surgeon, after they remove the soft tissue, they would take the nerve, give it a little bit of attention, cut it, and let it retract back into the tissue. The problem is this nerve is trying to find something to do, and it starts to form scar around it, and it starts to create a lot of pain. So it can cause pain directly in the residual limb, and it can also trigger phantom pain. And you guys have heard me talk a lot about learning the difference between all the different types of pain and where it's coming from, okay? So with this targeted muscle reinnervation procedure, the surgeon, like Dr. Dumanian, who pioneered the surgery, see, gave you that plug there, right? Okay. He will take the nerve, the neuroma, resect a portion of it, and plug it back into the muscle at a specific, what we call a specific motor point. Right? So Dr. Dumanian, just a brief recovery period from this procedure. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, when you take, and I'd love to hear what Joe remembers, oh, it's so long ago, when you take a really unhappy, painful nerve and you cut it, you tend to get a little honeymoon period for a day or two. Almost no pain. The patients say, oh, you're amazing. It's like, no. When you cut an angry nerve, it goes to sleep. And then day 2 to day 7, it kind of wakes up, and it can almost be as bad or worse than the pain going into the operating room. But if those connections are made, week 2, week 3, the patient starts smiling at you at week 3. By week 6, they're really starting to feel better. But it takes 6 months for an established phantom to get better. So it really depends on what kind of pain you're talking about. Everybody is different, but the nerves go to sleep, then they wake up, then they get better.
Yep. And guys, I do want to take a point, because this is something that I get a lot of email questions from you all listening to these shows. How important it is to correctly diagnose the pain that you're experiencing. Okay. I've mentioned there's a lot of videos on my YouTube channel about the differences between phantom pain, phantom sensation, and residual pain. So just because you're experiencing pain, whether it's in your residual limb or phantom pain, it doesn't always mean that it's a neuroma at the root of this. It could be several other causes in that limb. So finding a surgeon, number one, who knows what a neuroma looks like, acts like, and how to diagnose one, that to me is really important, because they can tell you, yes, in fact, your pain is coming from a neuroma, or no, this is coming from somewhere else, and we need to try to find where it's coming from. So I always like to kind of mention that. Let's see. Samantha asks, can you develop a neuroma after targeted muscle reinnervation?
Wow, that's a great question. So how about let's rephrase it. Can you develop pain where you do the nerve sewing? And most of the time it doesn't happen. In my career, I've had a couple patients who've had, and so then you can redo it a little higher up. So the nerve where you sew the nerve should not reform a painful neuroma, but it can. But a good outcome, no, it doesn't.
Okay.
So I'm
And we're
actually,
gonna, go ahead.
I'm like feeling on my stump where I had it done right now. I'm like pressing on it, and I don't have pain, but it's interesting. It causes like a little bit of that tingly feeling, a little bit like your foot fell asleep, but nothing close to phantom pain. I'm sitting right under the desk like, okay, if I
I'm
press
like,
here.
let me look at it and see. So no, good work. It's good work. All right, folks, we're going to do our second giveaway. Okay. So the first giveaway, for those of you who jumped on board now, we're going to extend our first giveaway through Friday. So for the first giveaway, go to tmrnerve.com and sign up to receive their blog. Really great blog, really great information. The winner will be announced on Friday. They'll get a year-long Cosi Talk Strong Body subscription. This one, here we go. This one, I want you guys to click on this link and head to their TMR Nerve Facebook site, okay? Follow the site and like the post where you see Joe in this really amazing snowboarding pose, and he's tearing up the snow and it looks just amazing. So go ahead, go to the Facebook page, like it, and like the post. And we're going to pick somebody there who's going to receive a $25 gift card. All right. In the meantime, we have another question here from Patricia. Do you lose length in the residual limb after TMR?
No, it's not a bone procedure. So your residual limb, your limb length is identical. It's only if the surgeon and the patient think that part of the problem is inadequate soft tissue cover of the end of the residual limb. And so yesterday's case, we did shorten the gentleman on both limbs. He had a bilateral below knee. So we shortened the limb to have better soft tissue padding and did the TMR. So we thought that there was a multifactorial reason for his pain.
There you go. Joan says, following TMR now. Thank you, Joan. She's listening in from Hawaii right now. Oh, so jealous seeing her pictures. All right, guys. So before I get started with Joe, just a reminder, go to Facebook, tmrnerve.com, right click, don't click out of here, right? Follow them and like their posts. We're going to pick a $25 gift card winner from there. So here's the part where I'm going to switch the screen up a little bit so we can really get Joe front and center. You're really in the hot seat now. Yes. All right. Showing my age there. Hey, Mariela, you're getting TMR on Monday. I haven't talked to you in a long time, Mariela. You got to send me an update. Wow. Excellent. Excellent. Bonnie says, I had TMR and RPNI done at Vanderbilt by Dr. Drolet. Very nice. Hey, there's my occupational therapist. All right. We got clinicians on board. We got a lot of good people here on board. So Joe, I'm going to zip it and I'm going to let you tell your story.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, I'm Joe Pleban. 31 years old. I just had my first child, my wife and I, not me, my wife, about a month ago. Yeah, I was standing there, but I was not in the center of it. And so I apologize. I'm a little bit scattered, a little bit sleep deprived, but I really appreciate being here. I'm excited to be on the show and kind of talk about TMR because it definitely had a huge change on my life. And so I started at the beginning when I was growing up, very active into sports. I played every sport I could. I grew up in Maryland and then Virginia. I played soccer. I played t-ball, of course, all the normal kids sports. And then as I got older, I got really into swimming. I was captain of the high school swim team. And I got into action sports. The big action sport I really loved was snowboarding. So even though we lived in Virginia, we were lucky enough to have a timeshare up in Vermont at Smuggler's Notch. And we would go up there every year and we'd go snowboarding. And that's a sport I really fell in love with. And really any board sport, anything that threw me off a high place at a high speed, I was really into. And so snowboarding fit that description perfectly. I also got really into wakeboarding. I did a couple wakeboard competitions. I was able to do a couple flips on the wakeboard. I always loved sports. I was always very active. And so I eventually, after high school, the day after high school graduation, I ended up breaking my ankle wakeboarding. And so I did this crazy trick. I came down and the wakeboard snapped up to the point where my toes were touching like my shin. Like the back of my toes were touching my shin. It is a bad break, but I had broken bones before this.
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward. And so we go into the normal, you're going to the cast, go to the ankle doctor, podiatrist, maybe. It never really healed. We had a lot of issues with swelling after it should have healed up. I still had pain walking on it. And so what they did was stick a little camera. I know Dr. Dumanian is going to be laughing at me because I don't know the medical terms, but arthroscopy, anthroscopy, scopy, camera went into my ankle. And so what they found was thousands of these tiny little tumors, and it wasn't cancer and it wasn't malignant, but it acted malignant. And it's a disease called pigmented villonodular synovitis, which is a mouthful. So PVNS, and it's been reclassified recently to TCGT or TGCT. It's transsynovial giant cell tumor, I believe. Again, don't quote me on this. If there are doctors in the crowd, I apologize.
You're a doctor in the house.
Right. So these little tumors, they eat away at the synovium. Mm-hmm. And I went through a couple surgeries. It's super rare. I think 1 in 2 million people get it. And so we went into recovery mode of, all right, let's try to do surgeries to clean it out. And every time we'd go and try to clean it out, if there's even just a little shred in there, it grows back in about 6 to 8 months. I finally went through radiation treatment to get rid of the tumors completely, and it worked. Got rid of the tumors. But at that point, I was left with severe arthritis. And I would say at this point, I was maybe 20, 21, 22 years old. And I've been slowly watching over this process. I was watching myself lose the ability to play sports. I was losing the ability to run around, play soccer. I lost the ability to run in general. All these sports I love playing, even if it was just like a hobby sport, I couldn't do it. And it was really difficult because I love sports and I love being active. And so watching these sports be taken away was really frustrating, difficult. However, the one sport and my favorite sport that I was always able to lean on was snowboarding. I was still able to snowboard. Even from the beginning all the way through, I was able to snowboard because the boot kind of holds your ankle in there. And so I had ankle support. So I was like, okay, all right, okay. If I can still snowboard, then I can live through this. We got rid of the disease. I still have arthritis, but I can still snowboard. So let's just, try to stay on the, look for the silver lining. And, eventually we go back up to Vermont, and we go up there for this family snowboard trip. And I remember I did one run down the slope and was in a ton of pain. And I go back to the condo and I'm sitting on the couch just like crying because I'm like, oh my gosh, please don't take this one from me. Like, this is the one thing I have left. Please, like, what am I supposed to do if I lose snowboarding? And that's really what drove the decision to amputate, because I was seeing guys who had prosthetics compete in X Games on the border cross course. And I'm going, okay, I want to snowboard, and those guys have one leg and they're snowboarding. And my other option for this severe arthritis is ankle fusion. I'm just going to cut it off. Get me to where those guys are, please.
Yeah, Joe, I'm going to interrupt you for just a moment, because this is something that I hear a lot from my viewers, the ones who went through surgery after surgery and then losing mobility, losing the ability to do things that they love, losing quality of life until they reach the forget it point. And you can substitute whatever word you want there. So if anybody is willing, I would love to hear, what was your forget it point? What was the point where you said, that's it, I'm done, I'm at peace with having an amputation surgery? So those of you who are comfortable putting that into the comment section, I'd love to hear from you now. Hey, Phil, glad you could be here tonight. All right, so Joe, you reached this point. You said—
Can I make one comment?
Yes.
An amputation does not represent a failure. An amputation, like Joe's describing, represents a new beginning. And so you want to optimize the amputation, just like you optimize all of the other surgeries that led up to it. The amputation is not a failure. And the way Joe described it, he was like, I want a new beginning. And that's just what it was.
No, thank you for that reminder.
100%. And I was excited about it. At this point in my life, I was a young 20-something-year-old walking with a cane. I couldn't run. I walk a little bit with my cane. I'd have to sit down and wait. And the other big thing, in all honesty, I was on a ton of pain meds. And it was not ideal. I am positive there are amputees in the crowd that are dealing with being on pain meds. Long-term pain medication is difficult. It's a tough, not fun life to lead. And I was ready. They gave me the option. All right, we're going to fuse your ankle and we'll see how that goes. And I was like, nope, don't fuse it. Just cut it off. I'm ready. Get this thing off me. And so I was so excited that myself and my now wife, girlfriend at the time, and my family, we did a bucket list for my foot. And we have a bunch of super goofy pictures. They're on my Facebook. My roommate is like going at my leg with a hacksaw. We went skydiving, which I surprised my wife with. I told her we were going wine tasting, and I pulled into an airport. It actually didn't go over as bad as you would think. So we went paintballing, skydiving, go-karts. We had all the like a bucket list for my left foot. And my most favorite thing was I actually got a tattoo around my left ankle that said "Please cut here." Because in my mind, I was like, okay, if I can finally get a tattoo that is not permanent, I can go through the process of a tattoo and not have to live with the lifelong consequences. I just have to live with lifelong consequences of amputation, but I guess that makes sense more than the tattoo. And so the guy who did my tattoo actually gave me a practice foot that they tattoo on for Christmas. And it has what my original tattoo was. Please cut here around the ankle. It was awesome.
That's so That's awesome.
Didn't tell the surgeons or the surgical team that was doing my amputation. I just let them discover it when I got to the hospital. That was pretty great. And
I was like, you probably heard some giggles as you were falling asleep.
I would hope. Well, it was really when I was in the not waiting room, the pre-op room before you go back. Okay, thank you. And they come in. Okay, well, let's make sure we mark which foot so we don't get it wrong. Ha ha ha. And they pull back the blanket, and I'm like, okay, yeah, joke's on you. All right, got it marked, guys. Like, we're good to go. So we had a lot of fun with it. And so, like Dr. Dumanian said, going into it, I was excited. Don't get me wrong, I was terrified. Amputation you can't go back from it. And you really don't know what the other side of it is until you get there. And I had amputees that I talked to beforehand, before I really made the decision, even after I made the decision. And still, I was so scared because you just don't know. And you don't know if you get to the other side and it's terrible, there's no turning back. But we did the best we could. My family is super into humor. And so we were doing the bucket list, going into it, trying to keep things light and really looking at it like, okay, this isn't a failure. This is new chapter on life. You get to get back into sports. I remember the first time I told my mom, okay, I'm really thinking about this. All right, you know what, Mom, I'm really leaning towards getting an amputation. And the first thing she said was, well, if you get the amputation, you're really going to be leaning. But yeah. So that's the kind of humor that was surrounding this amputation here. 50% off pedicures, the whole 9 yards.
Don't worry. I used to tell people when I was on chemo that I was saving so much money on shampoo and conditioner. So we're good. You gotta have the humor that you put into it. Let's see. Tom says that he had 7 surgeries in 2.5 weeks. Holy smokes. And to try to save the right leg below the knee. And then I had to have it amputated, and it was the right decision. And we've got a couple of other people here who are chiming in. Chris he says he should have done that tattoo as well. So I think you need to start like a meme or a trend or a challenge, somehow work that into the social media.
I'm saying, it catches them off guard. It really takes the tension out of the operating room, I think.
Sure does. All right. So Joe, you're going in for this surgery, and obviously you have a lot of optimism that on the other end of it, you're going to get to restart and reboot. Mm-hmm. What happens after surgery?
Yes. So, obviously, after the surgery, I'm going through the recovery process, which I'm sure amputees in the crowd know. It was surprising to me. It's one of the reasons I picked amputation was once the incision is healed up, they're like, okay, we're going to get you in a leg, practice socket, plastic, and we're going to get you walking once the incision's healed. And so I'm sitting there going, okay, that should be like 8, 9, 12-month process. And like, no, that's like pretty quickly, a couple months afterwards. Once you're healed, we're going to get you in a leg. That was awesome. I'd been through a couple, injuries before that with the active lifestyle, where I had long recoveries, and it was really frustrating. And I was really bad at them because I didn't really listen to the doctors when they said you shouldn't run until this point. I was like, but if I can run now, I'm just going to do it. I was looking forward to the short recovery after the amputation, getting into a leg, becoming active again. I had heard about phantom pain. I didn't realize what it would feel like. I had kind of been described. It's tough to describe, but for amputee, it can be either a constant just pain, like your foot is in a dress shoe that's like way too small. It can feel like sometimes I turn to my wife and be like, I feel like I'm stepping on a nail right now, and we're sitting on the couch. This isn't great. It feels like someone's bending my toes backwards, or like my foot's just cramping all the time. And that's one of the big issues I had after the amputation is I knew fan pain would be a thing and difficult. And so we were doing mirror therapy. We were doing physical therapy, desensitization.
There you go. You got it.
Yeah, okay, I'll get there. We were trying all the remedies put forth to help with the phantom pain, but it was still that constant, heavy, intense pain.
Hey, Joe, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Did you think your doctor had done something wrong that you had this bad phantom pain? What were you told?
I didn't think at the time my doctor had done something wrong. I think in my mind, it was more of it's phantom pain. This is what amputees go through. Especially in the beginning, right after the amputation, before I got into a leg, it was, oh, well, you just got your foot cut off. Like your brains and your nerves are going to be freaking out for a bit, but then you'll get into a leg and you'll do your mirror therapy and you'll get there. Like it'll go away, but you just went through an amputation. Give it some time. It's like, okay, give it some time. And again, during this time, what was working for my phantom pain was pain medication. Mm-hmm. And so once again, I'm on pain medication, which one of the reasons I got the amputation was to get off of it.
And you were on some pretty heavy duty meds. I remember in the interview, if you don't mind sharing with the audience some of the medication that you were on, because I think some of my viewers are probably also on that medication as well.
Yeah, I was on Oxycontin every day, and then oxycodone for spikes, which as an amputee, Oxycontin helped with the constant cramping, crushing pain. And then when I would have that spike, stepping on a nail, toes curling back, then I'd be taking oxycodone on top of that. And so I was once again on heavy pain meds and a lot of them. And because I've been on them for so long, I'm now at a very high dosage because my tolerance is so high. And so we get to the point now where I'm now trying to get into legs. We had interviewed different prosthetists, or just, I'm going to call him my leg guy.
Your leg dude. Yeah.
I would stumble over that word. My leg guy, my robot mechanic leg guy. He's awesome. He's in Fairfax, Virginia, Elliot Weintraub. And he actually went to the Olympics in, I think, slalom canoe. And so super active guy. Goes to Jackson Hole, big into skiing. So that's why I chose him, because I was like, all right, this is exactly where I want to be activity-wise. This is why I got the amputation. Let's get me there. Mm-hmm. And he was on board. So we're trying on legs, and it's awesome. I'm walking again. I'm jogging in the parking lot again. But I could never keep my leg on long enough to be active because I would have debilitating phantom pain. We'd go up, we'd put a new socket on. It would fit well. I'd feel good. I'd walk around. And then I'd go home, and within an hour or two of walking around, I'd be in a ton of phantom pain. I'd have to take my leg off, and I'd be on the couch for the rest of the day.
So, but wait, there's more, right? So what was your solution to this? Because you were, on a bunch of meds and said, that's not good for me, so I'm going to try.
Yeah. So that's when I think originally I had one surgery where we removed neuroma because neuromas had formed in my stump, residual limb. And they're right by the surface of the skin. And so no matter what we did with my socket, no matter how much room we put in there, once I put enough weight on it, it was going to be painful. And especially once I started trying to be active, which is, again, if I had been, okay, I'm going to take a couple steps a day and then sit on the couch, then I probably would have gotten by and just been taking pain meds and all that. But it's like, no, I want to be active. I want to be off pain meds. Mm-hmm. And so they removed the neuromas. I had surgery to do that. However, I still had the phantom pain. It still came back. And then that's when we heard about the new clinical trial at Northwestern with Dr. Dumanian for TMR. And I remember hearing about it, and I'm sure Dr. Dumanian's going to get a laugh out of it, because they said I don't know if it's a double blind, but okay, there's like a 50-50 shot. Some people get the surgery and some people don't. And then we track everyone's pain levels versus who got it and who didn't. And we were pretty much like, well, forget that. Insert whatever word. Forget that.
Forget that.
I don't want any chance of having something that could help me right now. And so luckily enough, I didn't know I was getting the surgery. I apologize to the clinical trial for messing up the data, I'm sure. But my family and my wife, John, we loaded into the van and went up to Chicago for a couple weeks and had TMR done.
Now, going back to backpedaling just a little bit, Dr. Dumanian, what are the success rates? So Joe, guys, what Joe basically had was a neuroma resection, right? So that's been kind of the treatment used now, up until now, where they would just go in, resect the neuroma, and leave it there again without anything to do. So Dr. Dumanian, what is the recurrence for these neuromas if they're only resected? You need to unmute yourself. You need to unmute.
Sorry, I was coughing, so I turned on. So great question. And I don't have a big experience of it's called traction neurectomy or muscle burying. You cut off the neuroma and you put it underneath the muscle, because the new neuroma makes sense. It's going to be just as symptomatic as the old neuroma. A very famous peripheral nerve surgeon says to his patients that he does either traction neurectomy or burying, 50% of people get 50% better. So those aren't my words. Those are a very famous peripheral nerve surgeon's words.
Which prior to TMR, I would have said, okay, well, maybe it's worth a shot, but now we've got a little bit better.
If you're flipping a coin in surgery, as my boss says, hope is not a good strategy for the operating room. I hope it gets better. That's really not a good strategy.
No.
Yeah, definitely agree. And especially from an amputee perspective, to go through the amputation and then have to figure out this whole new lifestyle and a new way of doing things. If you're going to go back in surgery, you want it to work, or you want a really good rate of it working, really good chance of it working.
And I had asked you the question, did your surgeon do something wrong? Absolutely not. This was your reaction to a cut nerve ending. 25% of amputees, when you cut all their major nerves above the wrist, above the ankle, have no pain and no phantoms. Doesn't matter how the surgeon does it. Maybe if you had an amputation that ripped the nerves, maybe a little bit worse, but basically it's a patient-specific thing to nerve injury. So this is just the Joe Pleban response. 25% of amputees have horrible pain and phantoms when you do a major limb amputation. So it's nothing to do with how the surgery was done.
There you go.
Yeah, and I'm thinking back, and like I said, it was just kind of a, hey, this is a possibility. It's phantom pain. You had your foot cut off. One of the really frustrating things was that there's no going back from the amputation, and so to be dealing with this whole brand new scary pain that I've never experienced before, and the mirror therapy and desensitization, and it's not working, you kind of run out of options. You go in so many times that, oh, well, yes, we've been doing mirror therapy. Yes, we've been doing this. It's still not going away. It's kind of like, what do we do next? Because I'm not going to grow the foot back to deal with this phantom pain.
No. And then, so, going into your first surgery, obviously optimistic, looking for a new start. What was your outlook going into the TMR?
Hopeful, right?
The patient should be hopeful. The surgeon should not be hopeful. The surgeon should not use hope as a strategy. Okay.
Yeah, hopeful, and if I'm being honest, desperate. Like it sucks, but I was desperate. That's probably going into TMR was probably one of the, if not the lowest point, besides finding out I had this incurable, weird 1 in 2 million person disease that was going to destroy my foot and I would never walk again. This was, oh, here we go again. You overcame your weird PVNS disease. You cut your foot off and we're right back where we started. You're just now down a foot, where I'm trying everything and I'm still in pain. And it was an extremely low part of my life. So I was desperate. I was desperate at that point. I was like, do whatever. Once again, do not give me a chance of not getting the surgery. Go in there, do whatever you want. Just try to get this to go away so I can go back to this, even just a semblance of the life I had before.
So Dr. Dumanian throws an amazing Hail Mary pass for the surgery, right? We're going to give it the Hail Mary pass award. And then what happens? You wake up from the surgery.
And I'll be honest, I mean, this was a while ago, but obviously I still had phantom pain. And I knew that going in. I knew that there wasn't like oh, you're going to wake up from surgery and it's going to be gone magically. And it's something I tell every amputee that I mentor or talk to, that this is not, I call it a light switch. It's not a light switch where they go in and just shut off the phantom pain and you're good to go. I still had phantom pain afterwards. I had the recovery from surgery. And I think for me, it was about 3 months out is when I really started to notice the reduction. And specifically, the big thing that at least I think I remember being focused on, Dr. Dumanian is probably going to go back and look at the surveys and be like, okay, you said this and this at that time. But it's the constant phantom pain. Every once in a while, stepping on a nail, I'll trade that. Okay, fine. But it's that constant crushing foot pain that I really couldn't deal with. And so I noticed a reduction in about 3 months. And then and that's when I started getting back, and I got into my leg before that, but that's when I noticed I could get into my leg longer and be more active on it and push it a bit more when I probably shouldn't have. And I think it was at 6 months is after the surgery is really when I noticed it. And I remember a very specific moment that I really noticed it. And there's a 5K loop at the house where my wife and I used to live. And I remember at some point I got a running blade and I was so stoked to be on it because it's like having a pogo stick for a foot, which who doesn't want a pogo stick for a foot? It's so much fun. And I would try to run on that. And I was never able to up until this point. Or if I did and I really gritted through all the pain, I would be off my leg for days. I ran it. And I got back to the house and I was, around the house, and my wife's like, "You're not talking about your fan pain. You seem to be feeling pretty good." I went, "Oh my gosh, you're right. I'm good." And okay, we'll see. We'll wait. And sure enough, I didn't have the constant pain. I didn't really have the sharp twinges. And that's really the moment I remember where it kind of switched over to the fan pain was greatly reduced.
And then the effect with your medications. Can you talk to us a little bit about medication?
That was a huge deal. I was able to come off pain meds, and I'll be honest, I think I detoxed 3 separate times, and it sucked. I don't know if I'd be able to do it again without my wife and my family to support me through it. But I was finally off them and I wasn't needing to take them for phantom pain. And it was like, this is how people live, not on pain meds. Like, I feel good. And I'm not worried about having to pick up a prescription. I'm not worried about, do I have to take another one to get ahead of the phantom pain in a bit because I just went for a run and now I know I'm going to be hurting later. And if I want to be able to walk to the kitchen, I may need to take one now. And the entire process that I'm sure there are amputees in the crowd have gone through, are going through. I finally was able to just be released from that, which was huge. It was huge. The most I take now is Tylenol, ibuprofen, whatever. I broke my collarbone in a snowboard race a couple of times. I had rebuilt, so I did have pain meds after that, but I was off them quickly. And it wasn't related to phantom pain, which was awesome. It was a normal surgical recovery procedure, which was a nice change of pace.
And guys, this is when people ask me about TMR and they ask me what are my thoughts on it, and I, I'm pretty blunt with folks, and I say, if you've tried everything and your surgeon is presenting you with this option, and it's the difference between living pain-free and getting off medications, getting off these heavy-duty narcotics, then I say yes. And sometimes people are like, but that's a whole surgery. And I go, yeah, but that's this. If this is the potential for you in the future, then yes. And your surgeon obviously determines that you are a proper candidate for it. Right there.
Yeah, totally like that.
Yeah. So Dr. Dumanian, we had an interesting talk in the last show on how sometimes when patients come out of TMR, because I should back up. Prior to TMR, right, their brains were rewired, or neuroplasticity, to feel pain, basically, for lack of a better word. So after TMR, it's almost as if the brain has to be reaccustomed to not having pain again. And you mentioned something in the recovery process of your patients after TMR that they still should do some of these procedures such as desensitization with the mirror therapy to help the brain acclimate again.
Yes, but another important thing, and I'm interested if Joe was doing this, is doing exercises with your phantom limb. So you think, I'm going to move my toes, and then that causes a signal from the brain to go down the nerve to re-innervate the muscle. The muscle sends a signal back to the brain, okay, I'm working, and that back and forth from the brain to the periphery, back to the brain, has helped numerous people at the 2 to 3 months for getting the phantoms to resolve. But by the numbers, and I'm glad, Joe, it only took 6 months, but it takes 5 to 6 months for an established phantom to go away, which is why doing TMR at the time of the surgery, at the time of the amputation, before the chronic pain, before the narcotic use, before the phantom set up, that is really important too. But when Joe had his amputation, no one was doing TMR other than Chicago, Vienna, just a very few centers around the Walter Reed. Those are really the only centers. Joe, you had your amputation-ish 2014, 15?
Yeah, and I didn't know Vienna was an option to get TMR.
Yeah, well, Oscar
I mean,
Osman
Chicago's
was
great, but
Oscar Osman in Vienna was the second person I taught to. We were friends, and I went to Vienna because they have a big Autobach with. I have nothing to do with Autobach, but they have a big prosthetics company. So I went to Vienna and taught the Viennese surgeons how to do it. They have a long history in peripheral nerve surgery, so they were really interested. So Chicago, Walter Reed, Vienna. Those were kind of the 3 places doing TMR.
Yeah.
In 2014.
Samantha asks, kind of piggybacking on this one. Domino's Pizza. No. How often do patients get phantom pains after receiving TMR? And does it completely go away?
I can answer my own personal experience real quick.
Yes.
No, so full disclosure, I still get phantom pain. I still have phantom feeling for sure. And it's funny, Dr. Dumanian mentioned the exercises because yes, I did the exercises because I still wiggle my toes. You know, I still sit there and I'm like, if I'm just sitting there doing nothing, I'm like wiggling. I'm doing it like right now and just moving those muscles that used to connect down there. But I still get phantom pain. I don't have any of the constant phantom pain, and I rarely get that twinge, that sharp, like, oh, okay, all right, yep, that hurts. Okay, it's gone. It doesn't last more than 30 seconds. And honestly, it really comes in if I've been extremely active that day, or if I've been sitting for a very long time. But it'll be a small twinge, but I do still get phantom pain every once in a while, but not the constant pain that I had before.
That requires medication.
So, and that goes along with what I tell people. And again, every person is different. Every situation is different. But with TMR, and we're trying to get the scientific numbers, but this is just a gestalt, 80% of people get about 80% better, as opposed to traction neurectomies, where 50% of people get about 50% better. But
I like your
the proof, there is some scientific proof, my randomized clinical trial. But really, it's the idea that now that we have something that works, and that includes RPNIs at the University of Michigan, we have something, an active strategy to work on the end of the nerve ending. All of a sudden, there are all these people around the country and around the world doing TMR. When we started this, there were very few peripheral nerve surgeons because the techniques were not overly successful.
There you go. So Jim is asking, is joint replacement a candidate for TMR? So Jim, typically if I have a patient who's going in for surgery, if they have a revision, if they're having a joint replacement, anything where they're going under and they're being opened up, usually I tell them, if you're experiencing phantom pain, have this conversation with your surgeon since you're already going to be on the table. If they know that there's an aroma there that's hot and bothered and they can do this for you, then that would certainly, in my opinion, that would be the time to bring this up. I should probably let Dr. Dumanian answer that one.
A little bit harder to understand the question. In general, when you have a joint replacement, I don't hear lots of complaints of a phantom joint, though the idea is interesting. There are nerve denervations that can be done for joint pain at the time of a artificial joint, but in general, there's joint replacements that work pretty well. There's TMR, which we've been talking about, doesn't tend to be done at the same procedure.
Okay. So Jim, can you clarify that for us? If you meant if you're having phantom pain, neuro pain, and you're going in for a joint replacement, can you have the TMR done at the same time, or is it related to the joint replacement itself? If you want to clarify that for us. In the meantime, we have our winner for the Facebook, Marianne. Congratulations, you are our winner. So send me your address, and I know you have my email because you emailed several times, and I love it. And we're going to get you that $25 gift card. So congratulations, and thank you guys for participating and supporting TMR Nerve in this show. Okay, so Joe, you've 6 months out. Pain is almost pretty much gone. Meds are history, right? Then what happens?
At that point, it's snowboard time.
And we live happily ever after.
Okay, have a great night. Everything's going great.
Yeah.
No, so at that point, it was getting me on. I'd been on a snowboard before this, but it was with a ton of pain, and so now it was time to really get into it. Surprisingly, getting back on a snowboard, at least surprisingly at the time for me, wasn't that much different with a prosthetic than when I had 2 legs. And so I was still able to get down the mountain. I was still able to get down the mountain pretty dang quickly. And so we did some research. We found a Paralympic sport club snowboard team out in Colorado called Adaptive Action Sports, led by Dan Gale. Awesome program. And they're pretty much a feeder team to the U.S. national team. And we reached out. They're having a competition. It was the USASA Nationals for border cross at Copper Mountain, and they had an adaptive division. So Dan and the AAS team invited me out. My whole family went. A whole trip of it. In my head, I was kind of like, okay, all right, I was a good snowboarder before, and I'm pretty good. So I'm going to show these guys what's up. And I remember getting out there and just getting my butt kicked. I think I got like 10th place or something. And I remember a specific point where one of the AAS coaches, I did a run, and like, so how'd that run go? He goes, well, you speed checked a couple times. I was like, yeah, I know. I'm still feeling out the course. He goes, okay, well, next time stop or don't be such a little bee about it. Like, just go at it. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, so you have to be really good to snowboard at this level. But it was a huge eye opener, and it was awesome. And I was able to get into an active snowboard amputee community, which for me was huge. Here in Virginia, there's not a huge amputee snowboard community. And so I'm learning all these little tips and tricks. And even just to the point where, I'm still a fairly new amputee. I'm doing a lot of activities, and my stump sweats a ton, and I get embarrassed. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, I have to like take my leg off and let it dry. And and I'm out there, and they're stopping in the middle of the slope, dropping trowel, taking their leg off to let it dry off, putting it back on. I'm like, oh, this is normal for you guys. I'm like, yeah,
that's how they do it. Okay, all right.
Yeah, like, your stump sweats, man. Just pull off to the side of the slope, let it sweat, get back on. You're good. I'm like, oh. So I always tell everyone, get into an amputee community. Hopefully they have similar interests to you, because you learn so much and you feel so much more comfortable about the little everyday things you have to go through as an amputee. And so after that competition, I realized, okay, I've always wanted to be top level snowboarder. I have my chance, but I have to get a lot better. And that's when I really kind of honed in with the training, competing. I moved out to Colorado. Actually, I would spend my winters in Colorado renting a room or sharing an apartment with another teammate. And then my summers I would spend back in Virginia with my wife, and I'd go back and forth training and competing. And I finally, 3 seasons ago, made the U.S. National Para Snowboard team, representing Team USA, going into my 4th season. And I'm living the dream. I'm literally living the entire point behind my amputation was to get back to snowboarding. So not only did I achieve that, but because of TMR, which allowed me to be an active amputee and go for this full bore, I'm now surpassing just the ability to snowboard. I'm representing my country. I'm getting paid to snowboard, which blows my mind every single day. I'm kind of like, oh my gosh, like I'm getting paid to snowboard right now.
Those Evel Knievel days of your childhood are coming back and wonderful. So show
Very
off some
nice.
toys. I'm going to switch the screen around. Show off the toys you got there in the background.
Oh, yeah.
This foot is.
This is a snowboard. This is really cool. So show off my snowboard foot, because that's a lot of times people ask, when you snowboard, do you just hard bolt your prosthetic straight into the snowboard? How does that work? And so different people have different feet, but at the pro level that I compete at, a lot of people use, it's called the BioDapt VF2 or VersaFoot.
Yeah.
And so you can see this is a Fox float shock. There are a bunch of knobs and dials in there. So it's fully customizable. So this motion, you can control.
That's awesome.
You can control the rebound, how slowly or quickly it jumps back, how slowly it compresses, how quickly it rebounds. You can take PSI out of it to let it compress more, make it feel softer, harder. This is kind of like the top of the line, and it just goes right in your snowboard boot, which is nice. So, and honestly, I put this thing in my snowboard boot, and if I don't have to change it, I just never take out my snowboard boot. And so I'm lucky enough that I have two separate legs. I took my other one off. So I walk around in this one, and then I'll just yank this off and throw on this at the bottom of the slope when ready to go snowboard. And then once it's in the boot, you strap into the snowboard like any other boot. But this is made by BioDapt. They're super awesome. And it's really cool. It's really cool foot. This heel part allows for some shock absorption in the heel. You can get different stoppers on here to absorb more shock or less. I'm a heavier guy, especially now that I have a 1-month-old and I'm working on my dad bod. So I need a bit more shock absorption down there. But yeah, and then BioDapt, for any AKs out there, they also make an above the knee it's called a moto knee. It has a shock in it. Look on the website, BioDapt, and that's between the moto knee and the VersaFoot. That's kind of the go-to at the top level for snowboarders.
That is awesome. You've got a couple of snowboarding fans here. Johnny just started learning how to ski very recently. So he's like, I'm looking at that foot for my next ski leg. So you got to ask Santa Claus for that one, Johnny. Kenny wants to know, what part of Virginia do you live in, Joe? I'm in North Virginia Beach, Chesapeake.
Oh, nice. I'm up in Fredericksburg right now, but my wife and I actually went to Christopher Newport, which isn't all the way down Virginia Beach, but it's the Newport News, Hampton Roads area. And we would spend weekends in Virginia Beach. That were a lot of fun. I don't really remember.
And then Jim clarified for us, Dr. Dumanian. He says, still having pain associated with shoulder and hip replacements. Don't guess it would be phantom pain since joint and limbs are still there. But could there be nerve severance and therefore possible candidate for TMR?
That would be something you'd have to talk to your doctor about. If there's some localized area of tenderness around your joint capsule, yes. And like, for instance, some hip replacements are through the anterior approach are associated with injury to this one particular nerve. So that's gosh, you have to see a peripheral nerve surgeon. But in general, you can have lots of joint pains from from joint replacement, where the only thing really is to cut more nerves to that area as opposed to doing TMR for these small joint capsule nerves.
Okay, there you go. Okay, sorry. Thank you for clarifying, Johnny. You started skiing in 2017. Okay, no. He's good. He's good to go.
BioDapt does have a ski foot now. Just saying. There's the snowboard foot that people also use for weightlifting, but they have a specific ski foot for all you two-plankers out there that enjoy facing down the mountain straight on. Could be fun.
That was faintly barbed, but we're going to let that one pass. My husband loves snowboarding, and he's a bit of a snob when it comes to the snowboarding. So I get you. So guys, we do have a third winner for tonight. So earlier this couple of days ago, I posted on Instagram and opened up a giveaway there for following TMR Nerve and Cosi Talks on Instagram. And Samantha, I hope you're still here. I know you were on here earlier. You are our winner. So your fiance will be receiving a custom-made socket sock. And I know the maker of the socket socks is on here tonight too, Joe. And I don't know if you're still here, if you're having a Mai Tai right now in Hawaii. But guys, if you haven't already checked out Socket Socks, she has some beautiful designs for the prosthetic covers, a lot of really beautiful, unique designs just to kind of dress up that prosthesis and truly make it your own design and style. You're welcome, Samantha. So Samantha, please email me. You can email me at cosi@cositalks.com. I'm having to reach here to type it in. And let me know your address and we will get you started on that. And of course I typed it in the wrong area. Samantha, go ahead, cosi@cositalks.com. All right, guys, that's it for this evening. I do want to say a very, very special thank you to Dr. Dumanian and to Joe Pleban. Thank you guys so much for being on the show, for taking time away from your very busy lives. Joe, best of luck to you with that beautiful new baby. Enjoy. And Dr. Dumanian, thank you again for bringing all of your knowledge and expertise onto the show. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, it's been my pleasure to spread the word, but Joe did a lot better job than me. So.
And to my behind the
Actually, can I tell a story?
Tell.
Joe never came back to my clinic. And then one day, one of my nurses go, "Hey, did you see this website? I think this was your patient." And I was like, wow, I didn't even know he had done very well. So Joe, thank you for putting it on the website, because otherwise we would have never known how you'd been doing. That's totally true story.
I 100% believe that story because when I went out and did an event with TMR Nerve, someone was talking about the clinical trial from your end, from the surgeon's end and the data and everything. They're like, yeah, well, we had a drop off in survey responses because after you get the surgery for the clinical trial, you fill out surveys to say where your pain is and all that. And they're like, we had a drop off in responses. After a certain point, we kind of just assumed that meant that people weren't having pain because they stopped responding to the survey. I sat there and went, shit, when did I do my last survey?
That was me.
So sorry about that, Dr. Dumanian. I was having so much fun being an active amputee that I totally forgot to continue doing the surveys and staying in touch.
He was going to get a pod appointment to fix his collarbone after that, so he had other things to take care of at that point. All right, and I do want to say a special thank you to my behind-the-scene ladies, Becca and Jan. Thank you so much for all of your support, and thank you to TMR Nerve for continuing to support the Cosi Talk show. Guys, next week I have a very special show. I will be broadcasting at 11 a.m. from my local Lululemon store. So for Limb Loss Awareness Month, we have something really fun planned then. So make sure, put that in your calendars, 11 a.m. next Wednesday. So same bat day, but not the same bat time. All right, guys, thank you for letting us be a part of your lives this evening, and we'll see you later. God bless.